This is Seasons of Discontent with your hosts Rick Snyder and Matt Combs on the Hogstein Network.
Welcome to Seasons of Discontent, Season 7, Episode 32, brought to you by Rick Snyder's Washington all across social media. And I'm Rick Snyder.
I'm Matt.
And we're back discussing all things Washington life and sports as part of the mighty Hogstein Network on audio and here on YouTube on video. So please share, subscribe, comment, hit the thanks button on YouTube if you're watching. Now the algorithm is happy. All right, Matt, I've covered 3 ties in my time with the Washington Commanders Redskins. The one in, I think it was 97, where Gus banged his head against the wall against the Giants. And then the London game where they tied Cincinnati. And here we go again. They tied the Giants. And I actually laughed at the end. I said, fair enough. They could have won this game. They could have lost this game several times each way. And I guess in the end, they were lucky. You know, a tie, it's not as bad as a loss. It's not, but it's better. Well, I'm saying it's not as good as a win, but it's better than a loss.
Yeah.
And it just makes, you just kick the can down the road 2 weeks to when they play the Giants again.
Well, and honestly, the landscape changed yesterday beyond just the Commanders. I mean, Jimmy G's down. That's an upcoming opponent right after the Giants game. Things have changed kind of in the favor of Washington, I would say. But yeah, look, honestly, Rick, it's a deflating tie, which is weird because, they had that miraculous drive at the end to tie it with a great 4th down play. Heinicke was spot on during that drive. He looked like a stud Pro Bowl quarterback during that drive. And then they get to overtime and they're close. They were close to Sly's range. And then it was just 3 plays in a row that you just kind of leave scratching your head with Scott. Like, why would you call those like a screen and just weird plays? But I tell you, towards the end, it just felt like they were playing to tie. They weren't playing to lose. They weren't playing to win. They were going for the tie towards the end of the game. And, look, yeah, you needed that win in order to jump the Giants, but you didn't go a game behind them. You know what I mean? You're what, a half, you're essentially tied with them because they've had a bye and you haven't. So I don't know. It'll be interesting in 2 weeks. The game was flexed, so the NFL is obviously spotlighting this game for Sunday Night Football. They feel it's a big game. My biggest problem with it, Rick, and maybe you can explain this to me, for 15 games out of the year, Daniel Jones is a mediocre quarterback. Against the Washington Redskins football team Commanders, he goes out there and he looks like Michael Vick. And you knew that the Falcons had kind of shown the league what to do to the Commanders defense. And I'm sorry, but Jones is a little bit more athletic than Mariota with a little bit more accurate arm than Mariota. So you knew they were going to come out running the ball with Daniel Jones. And I don't know why they ever went away from it, to be honest with you. But the guy comes in here and he looks like Michael Vick and Randall Cunningham and John Elway rolled into one. I just don't understand why. You got to spy that guy. And I know Holcomb's not there, but it just baffles me. Every year it seems he just runs for almost 100 yards against us.
Yeah, I often say that teams lose games as much as they win games. And sometimes you get too smart for your own self. And that's what happens. You see offenses score, and then I know defenses are countering things, but they get away from what was working. And I'm like, why? I will keep doing this until you stop. Yeah. That's what the Redskins used to do with Gibbs. Some of those great running teams they had, they're going to. Lombardi did the same thing. Lombardi had like 3 running plays. You had to stop him. That's all he had.
And I'm sure that the Larson injury kind of changed the Commanders, game plan because, look, the line is better with Larson in there, and then you put in the new Martin, and it was, obviously they changed their game plan. Brian Robinson didn't see the ball as much or wasn't running as well. So, you kind of had to go towards a quick passing offense, but I don't know. It was just so weird to me. It's like, this is working. You're up 10-0. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, let's see what else we can do to this team. And then next thing you know, you're tied.
Yeah, I didn't think the D-line played their best game. I mean, they got gashed a lot.
Yeah.
Now, guys have a good offensive line. That's their strength. But Daniel Jones, he's 4-1-1 against Washington. I tell my friends who cover the Giants, I don't see why this guy isn't better, because every time I see him, he's pretty good.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, you got the right coach now who understands you, so that should help some too. But I mean, he's not a great quarterback, but he'll break your butt on some things. And he did that. It was just really weird how that happened. But
yeah.
All right, switching to Washington's quarterbacks. Until that last drive with Heinicke, I was sitting there thinking Wentz is going to start when they come back for a couple of reasons. And the biggest is the Giants seem to figure out Heinicke. And so when you do a rematch in 2 weeks, they're going to do the same stuff again. Maybe you want to put Wentz in, change it up. But now your offensive line has gotten really screwed, because Larson's probably out for the year now with a dislocated kneecap. And forget that guy, And then Cosme was injured, but they didn't say anything today about, what's going on. I love when Ron does this. He goes, well, I don't know yet. I'm going to meet with the training staff at 4. Why can't you do this before you talk to us? Because you don't want to tell us anything.
Because he doesn't want to tell you. Yeah, I was going to say.
It's not like the trainer's holding you up and saying, I'll see you later, Ron. I mean, he does this on purpose.
Yeah, you're the head coach. I think the trainer has time for you.
Now we won't see anything for a week, so Ron can just sit there and go, I don't know yet. He drives me nuts with that. But I understand what he's doing. But, Cosme, I don't know what to say yet. Trey Turner, not sure yet. Notice that they were doing anything to keep Sadiq Charles away, on that. Schweitzer might play center, or they might have Wes Martin again. I mean, now, really, I think you've got to have Heinicke because, as I said, if you put Wentz in there, at least FedEx Field will have one statue, but that's not a good thing again.
Yeah.
So I think Heinicke stays. And Ron said that today. He was asked, are you thinking about moving to Wentz? He goes, yeah, I mean, it works. I mean, Taylor's Taylor. You're going to see some ugly moments, but we keep doing well in the games. He was a baller at the end. That saved his butt, I think. Otherwise, I think you might have had to make a move there. But I don't think so now.
Yeah, I'm tired of the Heinicke Wentz debate. This is Heinicke's team for the rest of the year. Not only because of the draft pick situation, but Heinicke gives you the best chance to win. This is what we've talked about ever since he's been in. Heinicke is a roller coaster. It is a roller coaster of ups and downs when that guy is behind center. But at the end of the day, I am more confident with Heinicke under center leading a 2-minute drill to score to win the game than I am with Wentz. Wentz looked okay against Jacksonville, and then he really just kind of went out there. Yeah, I know he threw for touchdowns and he had yards and stuff like that, but a lot of it was garbage time. Let's be honest. I mean, he threw a couple touchdowns in garbage time against the Detroit Lions, but they were already getting blown out. I mean, it's Heinicke's team, and it's for the intangibles that we've already talked about. The guys they rally around Taylor. They don't rally around Wentz. Wentz is the suit and tie guy, and Heinicke's the Jordans. They want to they want to roll with the Jordans. They don't want to roll with the suit and tie guy, and that's exactly what they're doing. I mean, Taylor's selling shirts that say "F it, Terry's down there somewhere," and we saw that yesterday. That YOLO ball, which honestly should have been pass interference, but the ref right in front, he called the flag, but the guy from across the field said no, it wasn't pass interference. But anyway, we'll talk about the New York Giants referees that got bought and paid for yesterday at another time. But yeah, I mean, you roll with Heinicke. Wentz, see you later, mate. Save me the $28 million so I can pay Deron Payne at the end of the season, please.
Well, since they didn't win, but it was high, everybody gets a left shoe this week. So, we'll see what happens after that. I looked up a stat, thanks to my friend Dan Daly, who I work with the Washington Times. And I said, Dan, you remember them ever playing 2 games in a row against the same team? And so he looked up 1966, they played Pittsburgh twice. And it was really weird. They were 0-2. Then they beat Pittsburgh up there 33-27. Sonny throws two amazing touchdowns. And then they played the next week in Washington. They won 24-10. And Sonny has touchdown throws of 61, 51, and 70.
Damn.
You know, Sonny carve them up the second rematch, which would be something interesting to see coming up. You know, Sonny learned something there. But then Dan came out with one. I didn't even know this one. 1943, they played the New York Giants 3 straight games. And you go, how's that? They started out 4-0, 6-0-1. Then they lost their last 3 games back when they only played, 10 games or something. Yeah. And didn't have any teams in the league. In 43, World War II, you didn't have enough players either. But, they're 6-0-1. They lose up in Pittsburgh, and then they lost at New York, 14-10. And then they lost the 31-7 in the season ender. But they made the playoffs they're at New York, where they won 28-0. And then they lost the title game to Cleveland that year. So it was a much smaller league back then. I mean, they were done by Thanksgiving back then.
Well, yeah, and it was odd that you said they played Pittsburgh back to back. Pittsburgh has been a perennial AFC team forever, and but you got to think it's the '60s. Teams like I guess Dallas and Philly, they weren't in the league yet.
Right, a smaller league. So, yeah, I was sitting there thinking, why are they playing the Steelers twice? But that's before the merger. So, I guess it was just interesting to see how that worked on there. One other thing, the punt returns, and Dax Milne's out, but so what? He didn't do that well at it. And Gibson's done some of it, but man, I really wish they'd put Dotson back there. They needed a big punt return late. Dotson has that touchdown, which was an awesome move. He juked the guy out. And really, when we say Heinicke threw 2 touchdowns, Terry and Dotson caught 2 passes they took for touchdowns. They were awesome. Yeah. Pros. But I said, man, try Dotson. And people are like, oh, you don't want to get a starter hurt. Well, Darrell Green returned a punt 53 yards in a playoff game against Chicago, which Ron Rivera was on that field at that time. He was on the side he was near the sideline on a route. So Ron just saw Darrell go by him. I've seen a clip of that. He didn't get close to Darrell. Mm-hmm. But Darrell did it because they really needed it. Joe Theismann returned punts sometimes. So, there's historical use for it. I mean, Darrell Green can do it. Anybody can do it.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with people. Jahan is a pivotal part of this offense, as we saw yesterday and as we saw in the beginning of the season. I mean, that's going to turn out to be a pretty dang on good draft pick, if you ask me. But you've got another burner on this team in De'Ami Brown, who really rarely sees the field. I mean, can you teach the kid he can catch balls. Can he catch a dang on punt? I mean, I'm pretty sure he can. You could coach him up in 2 weeks, but yeah, I agree with you. You need that spark. You need that big playability guy back there. I mean, and De'Ami, he's fast. I mean, he could definitely make cuts, maybe give you a little Brandon Banks, old school Brandon Banks action and take one to the house. But I don't know. I would go with Brown before I would go with Dotson.
Yeah, it's tough doing punt returns because, I mean, you're standing there waiting for that ball, and this guy's coming to kick your butt. Yeah. And that's not easy. It's not a kick return. That's totally different. Punt returns have to take fearless people.
Yeah.
So if he has that in him, and if you fumble it, you're doomed.
Yeah,
so,
true.
I don't know. All right, it's bye week, but we are going to be back again on Thursday with all new exciting stuff. And I don't know next week what we're doing yet. We haven't figured it out. But anyway, so don't forget about us, because I know people do. Anyway, I guess we're out of here, right?
Yep.
So I'm Rick Snyder.
I'm Matt.
We'll be back soon.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Seasons of Discontent on the Hogstye Network.